Hello, everyone. It's Friday. That means it's Chat with Mac. We're glad to have you. Thank you to everyone that joins us every Friday. We appreciate you. And to everyone that is joining us for the very first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, Nadeem has got to be one of the most busiest men in all of MSP land, if you want to call it that. Nadeem has always got a lot of projects.
I don't know. I know some people who are really busy. Man, I don't know how they do it.
And so now the reason I say that is because Nadeem is always working on something. For those of you that know, and for those of you that don't, Nadeem plays the role of VCIO for a lot of companies, and with that comes the TAM role, which is the individual that makes sure that your technology is up to date with whatever your business goals are. And Nadeem facilitates that meeting, makes sure that, hey, this is what you want to do, this is what you need in order to make that happen. So he has been working on some stuff on business automation. And I wanted you to talk about that because it sounds really, really exciting.
So, yes, I've been working on this. Everybody should know by now, there's only a handful of roles in any MSP out there.
Right.
Any MSP around the world, doesn't matter. So there is the project services, centralized services, there's the technology alignment manager role, there's the VCIO role, and then there is support. There's only 5 roles. That's all there is. Now, the technology alignment manager, TAM, and the VCIO are the most important roles because those 2 roles, they work hand in hand to reduce the overall impact from the customer side, to basically get rid of the support calls, the reactive stuff. Those are the only 2 roles that are the main proactive roles. They work on managing things in IT so that things get done before they break. For example, setting up budgets, replacing machines, replacing hardware, putting processes in place to make different departments more efficient.
Right.
So traditionally, what has been happening is, the TAM goes through a checklist, and this checklist is different for every MSP out there. And this is essentially each MSP's secret sauce, or should be. If your MSP does not have this checklist, I don't know what they're doing then. But anyway, so the TAM goes through this checklist, and this checklist it varies every visit. And we do about a visit per month. So in our case, the TAM does 1 visit per month for each customer. And in that visit, they do one day they might have a core infrastructure process list. The next visit, they might have security process list. So they'll have different lists that they go through, throughout the year. What I've been thinking about is, we've been focusing on the infrastructure, mainly on the infrastructure side of things. Even when we do the security list, we are focusing it on the infrastructure side of things. And this happened recently. I was on site, and somebody, and this is a real world example. I saw somebody processing receipts and invoices, and it took them 10 minutes per invoice. They were first scanning it, and then they were moving it into a folder, and then it was such a awkward process. So I watched over their shoulder for a little bit, and then I was like, how long have you been doing this? And they were like, oh, ever since they started. That's how it's done. That's how they've been doing it. Right. So what I did is I used so this customer was on Office 365, Microsoft 365 stack. So I used the Microsoft Flow, and I automated some things, and I coded a soft button on the scanner. So when they get an invoice, they put it in the scanner, they hit the one button, and everything else happens by itself. So basically what happened is that 10-minute per invoice job came down to less than 1 minute per invoice. And that got me thinking, if you're scanning, let's say 500 invoices a day, that's a lot of time. I mean, no wonder these people were like hamsters in a wheel because they could never get caught up. They were always overwhelmed. I was like, overwhelmed? Doing what? What are you doing? So they were just doing this repetitive task. Each task just took so much time. So with this automation, it took that 10-minute job and made it into less than 1 minute. So that got me thinking, maybe we need to have our TAMs do something like this at our customer sites. And I'm a member of a peer, a few peer groups that, worldwide peer groups for MSPs. So I brought it up to the peer group. I was like, hey, has anybody thought about this, and has anybody cracked this egg? How do you do it? How have you been doing it? Lo and behold, nobody was doing it, and nobody had thought about it. And the organization that manages the peer group, they were like, that's an interesting concept. We just never have anybody think about it that way. So that's where we are. Actually, there was a call today, our VCIO peer group call, and I brought it up in that call, and the host was like, I don't know, Nadeem, maybe you don't want to tell us all the details how you implement this. Maybe it'll be proprietary. But the goal is that if our TAMs can spend maybe one visit, they spend some time with about 5 users in a department, just understanding how they're doing things.
Yeah.
What do they do? So basically shadow them around their tasks, capture that information, get that to the VCIO. Then the VCIO can figure out, okay, these guys are doing this much manual stuff that we can automate. Let's put up automation process in place so people who are spending 20, 30 minutes doing something, we can take that down to 1 or 2 minutes. That's where we're trying to get to. And I think in the future, in the next 5 years, the VCIO role is going to be very different. I think the VCIO role is going to be not worrying about the commodity items, which is, switches, routers, infrastructure, VPNs, those kind of things. It's going to be automating business processes. Yeah. That's where the real value is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's where MSPs need to be at. I'm still working on the details on how we're going to make a process out of it, within the TAM and the VCIO role. We have to have a good process to where we can successfully repeat this at every customer out there and bring that additional value to multiple different industries. So that's what I've been thinking about. And we had a call earlier today, our VCIO peer group. I floated the idea there, and nobody was doing it. People hadn't thought about it. And there is in my pod, there's one other company, and we work very closely together. So we had been kind of discussing it back and forth. And he was on board. He was like, hey, this is the future for MSPs it's knowledge as a service, not hardware as a service or IT as a service or this as a service. It's knowledge as a service. That's what it is. And I think that's where it is. We gotta figure out how to do this, because once we do this, nobody else is doing it.
And I find that actually, somewhat, I wouldn't say surprising, but I remember when we were talking about it, and I was like, wow, so nobody's doing that. I mean, as far as being able to essentially streamline, different processes and those mundane tasks that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and not really have to do that, and the beautiful thing about what you're describing is that it's applicable, along pretty much, there's not a vertical in the world
any
that doesn't need that.
Yeah. I mean, it'll apply to any industry. And I think I know why MSPs have not gone down this path. In the past, MSPs have tried, and nobody has been able to make it work, which is integrate and run their app dev departments with their MSP practice.
That's a good point. That's a good
That
point.
hasn't been done. And any peer group out there you talk to, anybody with any experience, they will tell you very few people have successfully integrated app dev with their MSP practice. And I think that's what makes people shy away from trying to bring, because there's a big app dev component to this picture.
There is.
Because once you identify certain processes that you can automate, how are you going to automate them? So you have to have some sort of an app dev component to automate these processes. The good thing is we are in a day and age where a lot of the big first party providers out there, like the Microsofts of the world, they provide low code solutions to this problem. So you don't have to be a coder or a programmer to do this. We can actually train somebody at a customer site on how to, for example, create a flow to do certain things. Once we show a person how to create one flow, they can create 100 flows. So if we show them how to, fix one business problem, reduce that time from 10 minutes to 1 minute, they can replicate that to 100 business problems. And look at the cost savings that's going to be there.
Yeah.
The productivity just going to be multiplied. I mean,
Yeah.
So that's where we need to get to. That's where I'm trying to get to. And I just need to figure out that secret sauce that we have already figured out on the MSP side of things, which is that the checklist for the TAM and the VCIO. I need to figure that out for the business process automation side of things, and we'll get there. I mean, we're already thinking about it. We're talking to our peers. Like in the VCIO peer meeting today, there was like, I think, over 40 people, 40 companies in there. So the word is out. Everybody's thinking about this now. So sooner or later, I mean, there's a lot of people smarter than I am out there. So they'll figure it out. And that kind of lights a fire under me, right? So now it's like, okay, I got to be the first one to do it.
Got to be one of the first ones to do it, yeah. But now, Nadeem, now, I don't think a lot of people know about, the app dev component of PCSN, if we can just pivot a little bit where you can just talk about that, because I don't think a lot of people know we offer that.
Yeah, so we've had an app dev department for years, and it's an offshore app dev department. So what we do is the project management is done locally, and the actual programming, coding, development is done offshore. And the reason we designed it this way is, it gives the customers the local touch and feel, but yet it gives you the low cost of offshore application development. And you don't run into a situation where, I've seen companies that outsource stuff to somewhere in India, and then the whole project that just fell apart because there's cultural differences, there's time differences, there's just so many little things, and it's very hard to make it work. But we've had this department for, I don't know, 15, 20 years now. So we've had it for a long time. So, and like I said, nobody has successfully integrated app dev with the MSP practice, and that's why they've been kind of two individual siloed departments, the MSP practice and the app dev practice. They've been kind of separate. Now with this business automation going on, I think we will see a little more tighter integration between the two practices.
Nice.
And that's where we're trying to get to. Think of it like a dentist and a doctor working closely together. Two different practices, but there are some synergies to be had. Like, somebody's jaw is broken, you need a dentist in there too, and you need, a doctor in there too. I mean, it's like, it's like a surgery. You need all kinds of expertise in there. So I think that's where we're going to get to, is that we have an app dev component to it, but the goal at the end of the day is going to be knowledge as a service. So we're just and this is not this term. I did not come up with this term. Derek, if you're watching this video, and Derek might be watching this video, thanks for coming up that term. I'm going to steal it. Knowledge as a service.
And the beautiful thing, I mean, it's this is what I love about technology is the ever evolving component of technology. And I don't think, maybe I could be wrong, 5 years ago that this could even be a thing. Even longer, I can remember when we were just coming up with software as a service. SaaS was just like this new big thing almost 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. And now it's just rapidly evolving into, now you have desktop as a service that Microsoft is getting ready to come out with, and now this part of it, knowledge as a service, which is a awesome. Derek, great. I mean, that's awesome.
So yeah, and the thing is, this is all coming to the small to medium space now.
Yes.
So the large enterprises, they've had something similar. I mean, that's what the Oracles and the SAPs of the world have been trying to do is automate business processes, right? But a small to medium sized business can't afford something like that. So for the first time now, something like this is coming to the small to medium sized space where we can have custom solutions for specific business processes to automate them. And not only that, but to transfer the knowledge over to the customer so that they can replicate this into other departments within the organization. And I think that's just gonna put people in a whole different category. I mean, it's just going to be a business that's running without computers at all versus a business that's running with computers. It's going to be that big of a difference. I mean, it's there's just huge value to that, and that's what we're going to start doing. Is I have a few things that I got to do in sequence. We got to come up with that checklist, that secret sauce. We got to have that secret sauce. We got to tune it up. We gotta try it out. Then we got to tweak it some more, and we're going to roll it with some of our very close customers that we worked with for years and years. We're going to do some trials. We're going to let them know that, hey, we're going to do this trial. We want to see how this goes. We want to try to automate some of the processes that you have. If we cannot save you time, we won't charge you for it. But hey, if we can save you time and do the knowledge transfer to where you can replicate, you can implement this knowledge in other areas of the business, great. So I think that's where the future is for MSPs, is going to be in the knowledge side. Everything else, pretty much is going to be commoditized. I mean, switches, routers, VPNs, and all that, it's just a commodity. But automating that business process, that is unique. Not everybody can do that.
Very unique. That's very unique. And again, I think, man, I'm excited for a lot of what we have. A lot of things that Nadeem is working on that's rolling out, that's going to make it's just exciting. Between this and I think there's a few other things that Nadeem has been working on that, man, it's the next couple of years, it's going to be something else.
Yeah, every year I think, well, this has been the most exciting year, but every year I beat the previous year. So it's like as time goes on, I don't know, maybe it's as I get older, the more excited I get about stuff. I mean, it's there's just so much new stuff, and one of the things that's like in the near future, like on the horizon for us, for PCSN, that's another big thing that's happening or that's going to happen. I don't know. Should we tell people? I guess we can. I mean, it's, whatever. So that's going to be AI. That's going to be, I mean, that's, like business process, we can get that 10-minute time to 1 minute. AI is going to make that a fraction of a minute. I mean, you're talking about taking a 10-minute job and making it a few seconds or milliseconds. That big of a difference. That's going to be huge.
We've been talking about, I mean, I don't know if people have been paying attention. We've been really, really honing in on the AI side of things in the last couple of, broadcasts. And, we, as a company, Nadeem has really been trying to cast that vision as far as AI is concerned. And, you're starting to see it. I'm hoping people are paying attention on, and I know a lot of people, AI, they want to focus on the bad things. Forget about that. The good thing.
Yeah, so here's an example, and I think we talked about this last time a little bit, but I'm going to repeat this example because it's such a great example. AI does not mean this humanoid robot trying to kill everybody.
Yeah, that's
AI is off-the-shelf cameras in a warehouse that have the ability to inventory all your items in that warehouse.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's a thing, man. I'm hoping again. I'm hoping people are really paying attention, especially what Nadeem just said, because you're starting to see a lot of companies say, "How can we streamline this process?" I mean, gone are the days of being able to do inventory and have to put it on an Excel spreadsheet. That's gone. That's antiquated.
Yeah.
Now, gone are the days of having one specific person with a scanner gun scanning each and every item. Those days are starting to come to an end.
So,
what Nadeem was talking about is the next thing.
It actually happened. So as soon as the pandemic started, there was a large, I'm not going to name any names, but there was a large beer company that pandemic started, so they didn't want people to be in that warehouse. So they needed a way to inventory a warehouse and know what items, like what types of beer were stocked in that warehouse. So they went with AI. They put in off-the-shelf cheap cameras, and with AI on the back end, the system was more accurately than a human. It was able to inventory everything more accurately than a human.
Yep.
So yeah, the pandemic has brought many bad things, but it has also brought some
innovation,
new ways of doing things.
Absolutely. So Nadeem was really. When Nadeem was talking about it, I was so excited, to hear about the next initiative as far as PCSN and AI is concerned. Because listen, it's one of those things that if you're not, I think Nadeem used to say something along the terms of, if you're not ahead, I used to say something. I'm trying to remember. If you're not thinking ahead, you're already behind, or somewhere along those lines.
Yeah. There's no question about that. If you're not making progress, you're already falling behind because the whole world is moving forward. So if you think you're just standing still, you're not standing still. You're actually falling behind.
Yeah.
So
that's real. That's real.
But yeah, I think with that we'll call it a day. With but yeah, this is. We're going to make this happen. This is going to happen.
Absolutely.
It's one of those things that I think pretty much any small business out there can benefit from this, the automation piece of it. And then our goal is not to, just go out and develop this, big application to do something. Our goal is to use low code methods to do this, like using technologies like Power Automate from Microsoft or Microsoft Flow, things like that do not require programming. So when we do this knowledge transfer, the people at our customer sites can very easily come up with new ideas without having to know coding and all that other stuff that goes with it. That's where it's at, and I think it's going to really make a huge impact on business. And even
the last point of this is, there's a few companies that don't really care about growth, but the beauty of what Nadeem was talking about is the ability for the technology to grow with your company. And I've noticed that with a lot of companies, they're small and they, make this investment into, certain technologies, and they have to constantly retool that technology to help them as they're growing. And eventually it becomes a headache because now it's breaking. It can't meet up with demand, yada, yada, yada. And the beauty of, what we're talking about is this can grow. Without minimal, tweaking, if you will, hey, it understands. It's exciting. It's just exciting.
Yeah. Something like this can work at a 2-person startup and at the same time can work at a 300 multi
Yep.
national, like a huge company.
Yep.
And I mean, this is the future.
It's the
Definitely
future.
this is the future. And as far
Future.
as companies implementing things, and then we run into that where companies implement things, they paint themselves in a corner, and then they're trying to figure out how to get out of that corner without stepping on the paint. And I mean, one example is just recently we started discussing with a company on migrating them to the cloud, because like a year ago we suggested the idea, we floated the idea, hey, it's time to start thinking about this. And the owner was like, "Oh, no, I want my servers in house. I want to be able to touch them when I need to. I'm not going to put stuff in the air. What do you mean the cloud?" And now they're so now they're growing so fast, and he's in a bind because he did not invest in that infrastructure, and now that infrastructure is holding him back.
Yeah.
So now he's thinking about, hey, Nadeem, how quickly can you get us to the cloud? And I'm like, well, yeah, let's do this right now. Let's not rush into this.
Yeah.
And the thing is, with the cloud technologies, you can use as little or as much of it as you want, and that's the beauty of it.
That's the beauty of it, and so yeah, I'm hoping, for those of you that are listening, hey, if you have questions, feel free to, call, email, because I know that with stuff like this, there's burning questions. How does this affect my business in the future? Whatever. Nadeem will love to.
Or let us know if you
questions.
think if you think our idea is a bad idea. Let us know. I mean, I don't mind. I love to hear every kind of perspective. I want to analyze every angle of this thing. So if you think it's a good idea, bad idea, whatever your thoughts are, or if you have input, like if you have a business problem, if you think something is taking too long for your people to do when it shouldn't really take that long, maybe there's a bigger underlying problem that can be fixed with technology, with knowledge. So that's something that I would love to hear from people.
Absolutely.
So with that, Mac, I think we'll call it. Have a great weekend. Next week is going to be busy. A lot of projects going on. But
I'll be calling a lot of you. We got to get some appointments for a few of you. We gotta find out how you're doing. So if you hear me, pick up.
All right, Mac. You have a great day.
All right, you have a good one.